Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatam Maham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. You see, I got a new chair, armchair, behind. A huge. There I will dive into meditation. Was always wanting to have that big chair here. Great. So we stopped in number 10. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So those who give to me, previous was Machita, those who give to me their consciousness or thoughts. Madgata Prana, those who give to me all their lives. Bodhayantah, thinking or awakening each other, parasparam, to my presence. Kathayantasya mam nityam, speaking about me non-stop. Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha, rejoicing and deeply being satisfied with this presence of mine. Tesham satata yuktanam, there constantly united, bhajatam, constantly loving me, priti purvakam, being fully in love with me, dadami, to them, yogam, buddhi yogam tam, I am giving to them the buddhi yoga, by which yena mam upayanti te, they come to me. This is quite interesting. So he kind of will tune our mind, and we will have indications. We will have thoughts of particular kind, our higher thoughts, which would lead us towards the divine. So first there is this bhakti, this awakening of love, and giving totally one's consciousness and life, and constantly inspiring each other by my presence, and speaking about me non-stop and rejoicing in my presence. Of them, to them I give this buddhi yoga by which they will come to me. It's quite interesting. So not by loving the divine they will come. There will be one more action from the divine. He will give them the means to know him. Let us look into what here.
What are the means that he will give?
Buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga is the yoga of buddhi. Buddhi is the higher mind, yeah, and mind beyond senses, not sense mind, but the conceptual mind. We will start thinking properly. We will have a metaphysical picture of the world which will be conducive to our knowing properly. We will get the knowledge by knowing which everything is known, so to say.
So, Vladimir, is this the spiritual knowledge that comes for if anyone is awakened and open to that knowledge that's coming down? But it may take different forms.
Yeah.
Or be given interpretations.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have our own languages, our own interpretations, but they will be always in connection to the divine. Yes?
Right.
Because one can interpret the same event in many ways, yes,
Mm.
in infinite ways. And in many of them can be those who are leading us to the divine and those who are leading us away from the divine. Even true knowledge can also lead us away from the divine. That's why your mother says, let me know what you want me to know. I don't want to know everything. You know, why should I know everything if it is not leading me to you? So what's the point of knowing? It's just a waste of time and energy and life.
Is it like some people have a lot of knowledge about many things, but you don't find any um, love of the divine in that knowledge? I mean, I don't mean love of the divine, but it's a lot of knowledge of the world and of how things can be.
Mm-hmm.
But you can sense it that the real thing is not there.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people speak very nice about things, look very knowledgeable, very scientific, but there's nothing coming from them. And nothing, when everything is explained, nothing is known, as Sri Aurobindo says. so they're explaining the explanations, and they interpret the interpretations, they present the presentations, and so they go on and on and on, multiplying infinitely all those branches of interpretations. And so what? At the end of the day, it's all just rubbish. Food for some kind of mind which is never meant to be even in contact with the divine.
So can you say, Vladimir, they are talking more from intellect?
Yeah, that's why Mother didn't like this mental knowledge, mentalizing the divine, talking about it as if we do not, as if we want it and know it, but we really don't. Our mind knows the words divine, light, truth, and we repeat these words as if they mean something, but they mean very little to us. Yes, they mean concepts. They don't mean the real thing. But notice, Sri Krishna says we should not misunderstand the mother, because every time I tried to speak about the divine, about the mother and Sri Aurobindo, I always was stopped by someone saying, no, it's not good to talk about it. Wow, something wants in me to talk about it. I cannot stop. And here in this chapter, in this line, we can see Kathayanta Shamam Nityam. Those are talking about me non-stop. They can't stop talking about the divine. It's not because they have nothing better to do, but because they are overwhelmed by this. There is aspiration, fire burning in them. They don't find any other meaning to talk about. All the rest is so boring. All these organizational matters, what is to be done, planning, this and that, it's constantly on the surface, putting things together as if they matter. Of course they matter, but they matter so little in comparison to that what matters most, yes, on what we miss all the time with all our organizational matters. So organizing day after day after day, we lost everything. You know? We lost life and time and the truth. And so, of course, we are being used as a means of Prakriti for the sake of Prakriti. She is building something up for Purusha, and we will be used. Nothing will be kind of misused. Everything will find its place and purpose. I don't mean that. I mean to say that for us, for our own sake, that's why it's so much better to do something which attracts us, what we are looking for. It has to have meaning for us. Otherwise, what's the point of doing something which has no meaning for us? And I was so many times misunderstood in my life. Every time I say, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really appeal to me. Doesn't do anything to me. This kind of thinking, talking, doing. It's empty, totally empty. People say, oh, you're selfish. You always want it should have meaning for you. Yeah. Yes, of course I want. I want every action, thought, and feeling to have meaning for me. Can we do that? How many things we do without meaning for us?
It kinds of leads to a lifelessness and I don't know, a kind of not so good at the work if it is in contrary to your swadharma.
Yeah. Lifelessness, yeah. Some kind of dry.
And it affects your health also if the job is stressful.
Yeah. Dolan knows this very well. Yeah, I can feel that when you were talking about your life, that was there already. You were looking for that meaning, and everything else does not make sense. Even if you are very well doing things, and everything fits together very well, fitting together is not really everything for us. Yeah. It's nature is fitting things, and you can be very disciplined and this and that and perfected in some action, but that is only part of life. Where is the meaning? Where is consciousness? Yeah.
In my opinion, always there is consciousness, but sometimes we are obsessive controllers of what is going on. And I think this is the problem when we want to control too much. Control our thinking, control our environment, control our relationships. This, I think, is this bad use of the mind with an excess of control.
Yeah.
Is what I think.
Yeah, every one of us has something to solve, some issue, definitely. These are the elements. Everybody speaks from his own need of what is required for him.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. And yes, control also is, for me, less control is a problem. More, it has to have sense, meaning. I'm looking for meaning. Every word has to have a meaning. Every message has to say something. It cannot be just talking about nothing. So tiring, so exhausting, talking about nothing. So this kathayantascha mam nityam, and those who are speaking about me constantly. I think this is my svadharma somewhere. I love that idea of sounding the divine non-stop. Even for myself, I read aloud Rig Veda, I read many times, hymns, Svadhyaya, and everything is just filling in and in and in. All these vibrations, ideas, meanings. Then, even in normal things, I'm looking for these meaningful changes or meaningful events. They're all there hiding. You have to only see them. Even in ordinary life. Right, so he gives them Buddhi Yoga, and I think that is Buddhi Yoga, where you find the higher meaning in the ordinary life. So I guess I was kind of granted a little Buddhi Yoga for myself, which was kind of helping me to see the meaning in life. I think that is it, to see the meaning in everything, the divine meaning, not just ordinary meaning. I'm speaking about myself now, but truly speaking, it's a general thing. Try to not to promote myself or something. I'm just saying that I understand it like this now.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of truth in that for sure.
Mhm.
And some people see the symbols of the divine through so much in the world, and that gives a rich meaning to life and to experience just through recognizing in ordinary life many things which can be interpreted as symbolic of the divine or indicate the divine presence.
Yes. Yes, and it is everywhere. When we start opening our eyes, when we have that buddhi, we will see that nothing is here ordinary. The sun, the moon, earth, cosmos, light, everything, the wind, the rain, the water falls from the sky, the greenery grows and flowers to the sky, the flame, the light, it's unbelievable, the darkness, the stars, everything is charged with the divine presence. And this is exactly the canto. This chapter is about this, Vibhuti Yoga. We will look for the divine in nature. That's why he starts with this. He gives the Buddhi Yoga. He gives the means to see the divine in everything. And then, Tesham eva nukampartham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayam yatma avastho bhavastho atma bhavastho. Small print. Yes. Nashayami atma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. So, and out of compassion for them, anukampartham, aham ajnanajam tamah, the tamas, the darkness which is born from the not knowing, nashayami, I destroy, atma bhavastha, staying in the status of myself, jnana deepena, by the light of knowledge, bhasvata, blazing lamp of knowledge. Bhaswan is the one possessing light, luminosity. And then, this script is better now here again. Arjuna Uvacha, Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahuh Tvam Rishayo Sarve Devarshir Naradastatha Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. Arjuna speaks to him. Arjuna says, Param Brahma, they call you Ahuh Tvam, they call you in the second. The highest, the spirit, the supreme Brahman, Paramdhama, the supreme abode, supreme realm, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, the highest supreme purity, Purusham Shashvatam, the permanent Shashvatam Purusham, divine Purusha, Divyam Purusham, Adi Devam, the first of the gods, Ajam, unborn, Vibhum, the Lord of all creations. Ahuktvam, they call you, Rishayach Sarve, all the rishis, Devarshich and Devarishi Narada, Narada Tatha also. Asito Devalach. Asita Devalach is one of the sages. Vyasach. Vyasa is the composer of the Mahabharata. Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. But even you by yourself tell me about this. Who you are. You are the supreme. And then, yeah, there are few footnotes here. Arjuna, and thou art the supreme. Arjuna accepts the entire knowledge that has thus been given to him by the divine teacher. His mind is already delivered from its doubts and seeking. His heart turned now from the outward aspect of the world, from its baffling appearance to its supreme sense and origin and its inner realities. He is already released from sorrow and affliction and touched with the ineffable gladness of a divine revelation. The language in which Arjuna voices his acceptance emphasizes again the profound integrality of this knowledge and its all-embracing finality and fullness. And number 2, he accepts first the avatar, the Godhead in man, who is seeking to him as the supreme Brahman, who is speaking to him as a supreme Brahman, as a supracosmic all, an absolute of existence, in which the soul can dwell when it rises out of this manifestation and this partial becoming to its source, accepts him as the supreme purity of the ever free existence to which one arrives through the effacement of ego in the self's immutable impersonality, calm and still forever. He accepts him next as the one permanent, the eternal soul, the divine Purusha. He acclaims in him the original Godhead, adores the unborn, Ajam, Avyayam, who is the pervading Vibhum, indwelling, self-existing master of all existence. All the rishis say this of thee and the divine seer Narada, Asita Devala, Vyasa, and thou thyself sayest it to me. There are 2 footnotes here. Maybe we should read them, 1 and 2. All the rishis and thou thyself. So this is a secret wisdom which one must hear from the seers who have seen the face of this, I think, truth. Yes, it must be this, of this truth. Have heard its word and have become one with it in self and spirit. It's interesting how Sri Aurobindo speaks, yes? In self and spirit, both. So this is something interesting here. I always was wondering about this. You must hear this truth from others. In some way, one time in your life, you must be initiated into it. You may be very close to it. You may be nearly there, but you need this push from outside. This happened to the mother. This happened to Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo received nirvanic experience in 3 days. But he needed that guide. Mother needed someone to tell her, but you are the Divine Mother. And then boom, she got it, fully aware. See, these things are needed for some reason. I do not know why. Vivekananda needed Ramakrishna to touch his forehead and say, "Where have you been? I was waiting for you so long." And he was there already, but he was not aware in his surface being. So that small push is needed. So here the same thing. This is the secret wisdom which one must hear from the seers who have seen the face of this truth, have heard its word, and have become one with it in self and spirit. The initiation is needed for some reason. I do not know, it's some kind of magic on the surface. When this inner being meets inner being on the surface and something happens. Yeah? And then, or else one must receive it from within by revelation and inspiration from the inner Godhead, who lifts in us the blazing lamp of knowledge.
So it can be an inner initiation or an inner realization also, if one doesn't get it from outside.
I think both, yeah. Uh, or else it is like, yes, of course, it's mainly from within. As Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes, who is the teacher outside is the one who awakens in us the inner teacher, yeah? Inner being, who will teach us from within. So, but awakening is to take place somewhere, this push. And then, of course, there will be an inner being. Mother, for example, was totally awakened from her childhood, as he says. But something happened when she came to Alma and Max Deon. And when they told her, Alma told her, but do you know you are the Divine Mother? And then she describes what happened, that she received that being which was there, totally conscious. She became conscious of that being. Yeah? So she was there, but some magic is happening on the surface. We do not know what it is because we can't really judge it. We have to trust them, what they say. Yes, so they say that, and so we kind of remember it and think about it. But once revealed, it has to be accepted by the assent of the mind, the consent of the will, and the heart's delight and submission, the three elements of the complete mental faith Shraddha. It is so that Arjuna has accepted it, but still there will remain the need of that deeper possession in the very self of our being and out from its most intimate psychic center, the soul's demand for that permanent, inexpressible spiritual realization of which the mental is only a preliminary or a shadow, and without which it cannot be a complete union with the eternal. Now the way to arrive at that realization has been given to Arjuna. This is most probably that mysterious thing we are trying to figure out. Yeah? That connection, that gathering all the parts of the being into one, that they make sense. It's like you put all the puzzle pieces together and you see the picture. We need some correlator from outside with knowledge, guru. And guru can be also absolutely not necessarily knowledgeable. It can be also someone who knows a little of the truth, but who that push, because you carry within yourself all the knowledge and you're ready to receive it, and that small push is needed. That's why many times I saw very developed and beings who consider their gurus to be, if somebody to be their gurus, who are much less developed than them. But they are kind of, because they received that push from them, they're still considering them and very grateful for that push, because they gathered everything in themselves in that moment. Have you seen this in your life? Most probably many times. That the gurus are much less developed than these disciples. Oh, the example of Sri Aurobindo and Vishnu Bhaskar Lila, is the best example actually for this.
Yes, and there have been other examples also in Indian literature. If you read spiritual literature, many teachers who were actually not literate from the worldly point of view, but they were realized beings. And they had a vast following, but their behavior was very eccentric and not one of educated person.
Yeah. And nevertheless, it does something. Of course, it is better not to be stuck with the teacher, as Ramakrishna was saying. Yes, my students are like the birds which are crossing the ocean, and they find me as a ship in the ocean, and they come and rest on the ship, on the boat, and then they try to travel again, and they fly long way, and then they find nowhere boat to rest, and they come back to this previous boat to rest again. So they were flying in vain. They come back to sit again to rest. So this is a good image of that students come back to the teacher, though they have to fly forward.
It certainly is. And it reminds me of a story of Sri Aurobindo having a disciple come to him who had a guru. And he considered, the disciple considered the guru to be less appropriate for him, less knowing than Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo advised him to stay with his guru because of that consistency of sort of continuing with whoever gives you that inner initiation, I guess, is the idea.
There could be some more to it which he didn't say, that disciple needed at that particular guru to work out something in his nature. And Sri Aurobindo with his vision would be too much for him. And that's the mercy of the teacher, telling him what is the best for him. The same with Mother and Sri Aurobindo they did when they looked into the photo. They said to the person, if you come, this, what will happen. If you don't, you will be progressing faster, you will develop much faster, and so on. So they were very merciful in that sense. They didn't consider themselves to be important. Right, okay. Let's come to the next. Sarvam etadritam manye yan mam vadasi keshava nahi te bhagavan vyaktim viduh deva nadanavah svayam evatmanatmanam vethatvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. Vaktum arhasi asheshena divyah yatma vibhutayah yabhih vibhutibhih lokan imanstvam vyapya tishtasi. This is the whole gist of this chapter. Sarvametadritam manye. I think all this is true. Yanmam vadasi Keshava, what you, Krishna, tell me. Nahi te Bhagavan vyaktim, your personality, O Bhagavan, naviduh, nobody knows. Neither gods, devaha, nor danavah, nor the danavas. Danavas are the titans or the demons, from Danu. Danu or deity, these are the names of the dividing consciousness from root Da, by the way. Da, to divide. We spoke about this interesting root. To da to give, to divide. Divide is actually to take part of oneself and give away. So this kind of split. And from here we have many roots like Dasyu. Dasyus also deities, Danavas, and also Dashuk. Dashuk is the one who gives oneself totally, who surrenders. It's interesting that Sanskrit doesn't have preference for good or bad roots. It's more functional, and it depends on the context in which you use the word. So it can be positive or negative, doesn't matter. It depends on the context, not on the root. So Svayam Eva Atmanatmanam Vetra. You know yourself by yourself. O Purushottama, or the Supreme Purusha. Bhuta Bhavana, supporting all the bhutas, all the becomings. Bhutesha, the Lord of the becomings. Deva Deva, the Lord, the God of gods. Jagatpate, or the Supreme Master of the world. Vaktum arhasi asheshena. Without remainder you should tell me. Divya hyatma vibhutayah. Your divine manifestations, self-manifestations. Yabhih vibhutibhih, by which vibhutis, lokan, the worlds, iman, these, tvam vyapya, you, pervading, having pervaded tishtasi, you stay. These are the vibhutis. I'm just translating. Literally, we can look into how Sri Aurobindo translates these words. Thou alone knowest thyself by thyself, O Purushottama, source of beings, Lord of beings, God of gods, Master of the world. Thou should tell me of thy divine self-manifestations, all without exception, thy vibhutis, by which thou standest pervading these worlds. There is a footnote for manifestations. Let us read it. Lastly, Arjuna accepts him as that Vasudeva in and around us who is all, what is this? Things, I think things. Who is all things here, yes? By virtue of the world pervading, all inhabiting, all constituting master powers of his becoming, Vibhutayah. We know this word Vibhuti in a different context, yes, like partial manifestation. There were many Vibhutis of Sri Aurobindo and the mother before, yes. It's a partial manifestation of the being, when the being, the true being, pervades and stays in a particular form, or in particular event, in particular personality, partially. For example, Leonardo da Vinci was a Vibhuti before. He was Vibhuti of Sri Aurobindo, of that Sri Aurobindo whom we know. But here Vibhuti is taken in the vaster sense. He wants to know the presence of the divine in all possible formations in nature. He wants him to tell where, how can he see him in nature, in the universe? Where is he hiding? Who is he here? So his faith is deep now. He's looking for the divine in nature, like Mirabai was looking, and seeing Krishna everywhere. It's bhakti, it's love. He wants to love him everywhere. He doesn't want to lose him anywhere. He doesn't want to have this nature without him. It's no use for him to just to live and to enjoy and to move around and to be a great warrior and to be praised by some people. and live in ignorance. He doesn't want that anymore. He wants the divine constantly to be with him. And now, the whole 10th chapter is about this. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Lord said, the Blessed Lord, the Blissful Lord, the Lord of the divine bliss and Ananda. Hantate kathayishyami, I will tell you, Divya Hyatma Vibhutayah, my divine self manifestations. Pradhanyatah Kuru Shrestha, or best of Kuru, only briefly, only the principal manifestations, not all. Nasti Antah Vistarasyame, because there is no end to my extensions, to my the peculiarities, particularities. You know? 1 second, this. And it's quite interesting that he mentions this to him, yes? So I will tell you only in principle, pradhanyatah, and not vistarena, so to say. Vistarasya nasti antah. There is no end to the vistara, to the details of my manifestation, because they are everywhere, infinitely. You can find them. It's like this. In the mathematics, they have this fractals design. Yeah, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into microcosm, and you will see always the surprise of the presence of the divine. Aham Atma Gudakesha, I am the self. Sarva Bhuta Ashaya Sthitah, staying in the heart of every being, or abide in every being, let us say. Aham Adich Cha Madhyam Cha Bhutanam Anta Eva Cha. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of every becoming. Now, this is the most, if he is all that, so what else is there to say? Is there something else to be pointed out after this? Yes, there will be more. Adityanam aham Vishnu. Among Adityas I am Vishnu. Jyotisham Ravir Anshuman. Among the luminaries I am the sun, full of rays. Marichich Marutam Asmi. Among Maruts I am Marichi. This is also very interesting from the Vedic perspective. Who are Maruts and who is Marichi? Nakshatranam aham shashi. And among nakshatras I am the moon. Yeah. Okay, I will stop here for a second because I don't want to rush. If you have some thoughts, want to share something, please go ahead.
Can you explain the Maruchi and the this one in the Vedas? Like, what does it mean? Like, if you can elaborate more.
Yes, it's a very complex thing, but Marichi, you remember Aitareya Upanishad we read with you. In the Aitareya, Marichis are mentioned. Marichi Maram Apah, yeah? Ambah Marichi Maram Apah. This was the manifestation of the upper ocean, then Marichi, then death, then the lower ocean. So the top of the lower ocean is death, Maram. The bottom of the upper ocean is Marichi. So you see Marichi and Maram, notice the same root, yeah? And Marut is the same root. Mari, to die. And this Marichi on one side and Maram from another, they meet and they build the space in between heaven and earth. Yeah. So the heaven becomes the top or the bottom of the upper ocean. The earth becomes the top of the lower ocean. And in between this Marichi and Mara, they are this. So Marichi, somewhere it was explained by tradition, these are like particles of light within the ether. It's something which builds up the ether itself, that the light can travel through. Because it's very strange that the light, the ray of light, can travel through the space where there is nothing. It's not so totally. There's something there which allows that kind of movement of light. It's the space which is holding the universe together. Marichi, these particles which are holding everything together. And Marut Mari is interesting because it is also it's not only death, it's also constant transformation, constant change, yeah, of the form from one form to another. The law of preservation of energy is maintained by Marichi and Mara. Constant shift from one form to another, constant adaptation of one form by another. There was a beautiful film Marco in his course was showing us about monocellular organism which has a very long kind of leg or hand and tries to catch some other food, any other, bacteria, any other cell, and to appropriate it, to eat it, to gobble it, yeah, to grow by that. And with his hand, it tries to touch, and then it comes and touches itself, and then it moves away from itself. So it recognizes that it's me. It's me, and I cannot eat me. Yeah? So I have to eat somebody who is not me, so to say. So this is the I think inbuilt oneness, seeking oneness to be manifested in the world on the physical level. Yeah. So constant change and shift from one form to another because these forms are separated by time and space, and how for them to come together. It's only by interacting, by gobbling one another. Either this form eats this form and becomes something, or this form eats this form and becomes something. Doesn't matter who eats who. Matters that they want to be one, bigger one. They're seeking oneness constantly. Makes sense. It's a kind of strange thing, yes? Eating each other and seeking oneness. It's love. It is that impulse of love to eat each other. But because it's in divided time and space, it looks like ignorance and looks like suffering and so on. We don't like to be eaten. We want to eat. And every one of us wants to eat, doesn't want to be eaten. But nevertheless, we are all eaten up at the end.
Isn't it also the law of love in this world? We always constantly want to possess those whom we love.
Absolutely. It's ignorant impulse, but the true impulse behind it is the law of love. Absolutely. Somebody was saying that the way to his heart was through the stomach. You feed him and you will have his heart. It's amazing. There is some truth in it, It sounds ignorant, but it is not totally ignorance. There is everywhere. The truth is everywhere. If we can see it, yeah. If we have that buddhi to see that the divine composed everything in time and space in such a way that it fulfills its principles of oneness and love and interaction. So, and among Adityas, he's Vishnu, of course. Especially now, he's avatar of Vishnu. Vishnu is the Vedic deity. Vishnu is explained as the power which holds heaven and earth separately. It's that in later Puranic tradition, it is the one, the upholder, the one who maintains the duality, who is not destroyer, but the maintainer. Well, Sangeet apologetically objects to this, that love is not killing some and eating some person or animal. Well, yes, I know from the point of view of the being, to be eaten is no fun. But somehow we have to eat. Whatever it is, maybe not animals, but you have to eat plants. Some substance you have to eat. Otherwise, the fire within you will eat your substance, and you will be eaten up, whether you want it or not. You will die from hunger. That fire in us is hunger, who is constant. That is Marichi. That is which is pushing us to change the form, constantly to adopt another form and transform and live in life, live in time and space, continue our existence. Though it has to stop, it cannot sustain itself, but it still continues through time and space. Yeah, Sangeet, you can put your microphone if you want to. Can't wait for supramental transformation. Well, supramental transformation will be also of that kind, where you would see the meaning in the animal nature, and if we have this divine look at nature, there will be no more judgment of what is happening in the world. You will see why this happens or that happens, who is possessed by what force, why he maintains certain kind of vibration, activity, understanding, action. Everything will become clear. It doesn't mean that we have to accept it for ourselves. It means only we will see it and we will understand why it is taking place. And it liberates us from judging. Rather, we would find the means to help it to evolve, to push it forward, to find the knowledge, to find the source of the truth, instead of judging and destroying the falsehood. Because destroying the falsehood is a very tricky thing to do. Falsehood wants us to be engaged in destroying it. Then we are his. We become his material partially. Not always. When there is Krishna with you and you are Arjuna, then maybe not. But this is very rare, rather. Even for Arjuna was difficult, even with Krishna, to see it. And nakshatranam aham shashi. You know that the moon, Soma or Chandrama or Chandra or Shashi. Shashi is an interesting word. You know what Shashi means. Most probably Indians know all about this.
Does it mean something cool?
Yeah, Shashi is from Shasha. Shasha is the rabbit. With the rabbit. It's the one who has a rabbit on it. If you look at the moon, you will see the rabbit on the moon. It's funny. It's a funny word. I am with the rabbit, he says, among nakshatras, literally. But here the moon is the husband of all the nakshatras, yeah, of all the greater cosmos. He moves from one nakshatra to the other during the day. Moon is traveling through all the cosmos, makes the whole circle, visits all the constellations in the sky. There's something happening there on that scale. Moon, as I think it as magnifying glass of all the influence of the cosmos, bigger cosmos, onto the earth. And we who feel the presence of the cosmos through the moon, moon is magnifying, amplifying the influence of the greater cosmos onto us. We somehow interact with that greater cosmos through the moon. It's like a resonance of some kind, which creates this connection.
So is the moon male in some contexts and female in others?
Yes, they're all females, and he is the male. Yes, he has
Because
27.
I have a priest friend, Brahmin priest whose daughter is named Sashi.
Oh,
So this is, it can be a woman's name. I've never heard of a man named Shashi. But he says
Shashin. Yeah, Shashin.
he says it refers to the moon. There's this story that you see, as you mentioned, you see the rabbit in the moon.
Yeah. Maybe, why not? You can have Surya as she, there is the whole hymn.
Surya is also male or female.
Yes.
The Savitri and
Yeah.
Gayatri are both generally female, but Surya himself is generally male.
Right.
I think.
Right. And even these words like Matri, Mata, yes?
Yeah.
In the Vedas, you have Matri is masculine also. The one who measures, who creates the form, the creator, Mata. He.
Yeah.
And not only she, Mata. Yeah? We now used to only she, but it can be in both genders.
Yeah. Krishna says, Pitamaha, Mahapita. I'm Mahapita, the grandfather. So there, Mata is sort of the stronger part of the word for grandfather, but it's obviously male, or male and female.
Yeah, gender is not so kind of important in this case, but interestingly, that nakshatras, though behind the nakshatras there are devatas who are not female devatas, they are all male devatas, Indra and so on, Mitra, Varuna and so on, one by one, Vishnu. All the devatas are standing behind nakshatras.
Could it be that the David says more like the Purusha value of the nakshatras and action of that particular constellation is a Shakti value?
Could be, some kind of essential representative of that devata is the nakshatra, yes, which Shashi takes as their wives, and he is also Chandrama or Soma is marrying Surya. On one hand, he marries all the 27 nakshatras of the bigger cosmos. On the other hand, he marries the daughter of the sun. So he has enough wives. But it's quite interesting that this Surya is from our solar home, whereas nakshatras from the bigger cosmos. So we have the solar home relations, and our soul is related to Devayana, solar home, towards the sun, and other is towards the moon and the bigger cosmos. So we have two relations within ourselves, with the solar home and the bigger cosmos. And solar home has something to do with Vishnu, by the way. This is interesting. And Shiva has something to do with Shashi. But here he says that he is the Shashi. But this is normal for this text, to be identified with everyone.
Because the way he uses nakshatra here is not the sense that's used in Jyotish, where it's 1/27th of the entire zodiac. But it fits to say Nakshatra Namaham Shashi. That fits with the idea that he is the essence in all of these names he gives himself. His vibhutis are always taking the foremost or representative, prototypical. And in that sense, if the moon is the husband of all the nakshatras, then he's qualitatively different from all the nakshatras. And yet, as you said, kind of focusing or magnifying their powers.
Yeah, it's a way of talking, magnifying, because
Yeah.
how could we understand that nakshatras are determining our birth and our qualities of our character, being, that particular muhurta of the time of our birth, yes. And so how could they constitute our particularities in character, mental, vital, and so on, health, and the whole destiny is built by them. They give us the time, and also they want to get from us our feedback, so to say, our percentage, our experience. They want to perceive it, to get it for themselves. They're investing into us like bankers, their money, their material, and we carry it out. And once we finished our life, we have to give back the percentage, so to say, to the bankers. They want that percentage. That's why they invested. And that's how it is described. Then when we go to the moon, when we die, they eat our soma. Soma is this experience we get through life. Yeah, all these impressions, all the experience we got, spiritual and so on, vital, mental. So they want to know why, because this interaction of the inborn self, Yajamana, and the world creates the delight of existence, and that delight is precious food for them. They want to know the impression of the embodied self, of the divine perceiving its own world. They want that food. Yeah? That's how they grow, how they change, how the cosmos grows, how cosmos can evolve. Cosmos cannot evolve without us and our impressions, our experiences. They are interested in getting it from us.
This is a new concept for me, that the divinities have to sort of eat what remains of our experiences after we've shed the body.
It's described in Chandogya. When we travel to the moon, they eat us until we are empty, and then we fall back on Earth again. But why they eat us? Who is eating us? Those who invested into our birth, into our chart.
But is it something where by eating us they lose, or we lose and they
No.
gain? Yeah, so it sounds like more like a debriefing. We may be speaking it, but it's sharing the benefits to our experience.
Absolutely. This is our sacrifice. We are changing the bigger cosmos by this constant interaction with them. They invest into our bodies. We are the spark of the divine. Take these bodies. This is not my body. This is built by them. They gave the material, physical, vital, and mental. It's all them. Now I'm gathering the impressions, the soma for them. And once I meet with them after death, they will say, where is my soma? Give me the percentage for our investment. I will say, here it is. This is it. They will eat it, gobble it, and say, oh, this is so beautiful. This is so amazing. This impression of the divine look at manifestation, because they are typal beings. They cannot evolve without evolutionary soul and its impressions. So this is how we help them to grow. That's how we are tight with them, with the devatas in this particular relation of the sacrifice.
So Sri Aurobindo talks about typal beings in the last 6 chapters of The Life Divine. Does he talk about the devatas kind of harvesting that's experienced that way?
No, this what I'm kind of telling you is my kind of understanding, which I gathered from what I studied. But knowing that they are typal beings and we are evolutionary beings, that Yajamana and their relations and everything in literature is written down to the last detail. So if you put it together, you will see this picture.
Wow, it's very interesting interpretation.
Well, otherwise, what do they eat? What soma do we give them there? When we die, leave our body and go there as a spirit. What do they want from us? What food we can give them? It's exactly this food which we gathered, because soma is born on the edge of the true divine perception of the reality outside. Something is being born, some sensual enjoyment of the divine presence here, kind of distilling out of closed being something true qualities of the divine, and that's the food for the gods. By that they grow, by that they become more and more aware of the supreme. By that they can change, actually. Otherwise they don't change. Without sacrifice they don't change. And that is the idea of soma yagas, of soma sacrifices. Yeah, if you want to clarify something, please just switch on microphone if somebody wants to say something. Interrupt.
So what about those spirits which have done nothing but bad deeds and collected a whole lot of bad experiences? Do they also have soma to offer to the god?
Yes, so much. Yeah. Also,
Really?
yeah. There's much to learn about everything. Bad, wrong deeds, sensual, divine, anti-divine. The divine spark is always there, yes? Unless there is nothing to offer, yes. Then there is no soma. There's no distilling of the divine properties out of the... Well, it's interesting that we are talking about this now, because we will be distilling the divine properties from the nature, vibhutis, his presence. We will have to find him there and enjoy his presence. Yeah? This is increasing soma. It increases that which we will feed our investors with at the end. It's our purpose here to transform and to make the universe grow and become aware of the divine. This is how we do it.
Also, Shiva is portrayed as wearing the moon on his head.
Mm-hmm.
That is the portrayal of Shiva in the Hindu pantheon, that he wears the moon on his head. So, indicating a relationship, therefore.
Right, absolutely. And he supports the first gods. And by the way, the whole Veda is more Shaiva. So you can see in the Jyotisha tradition that Shaiva would be more related to the nakshatras and the moon. Yeah? And wherever it is, as this Parashara would say, Parashara Shaktiya. So if you want to learn about the nakshatras, you have to go to Shaiva. I will speak to you about the grahas. Yeah? And when he speaks about the grahas our solar system. Yeah? These are the planets within the solar home. Solar home is very interesting being, because it is the sun in the middle, and then the rays, and then there are fences of the planets until the Saturn, yeah, and Saturn is the last fence of our system. So within this solar home, our soul is developing, learning from all the elements, Devayana. These are the great beings here, Jupiter, Shukra, all these beings are also doing something to us. They give us a lot of knowledge and support in the growth of the soul. And Surya is our, of course, Aditya is our home, or our origin from which we came. We all came from the sun, as Shatapatha Brahmana says. We are all the rays of the sun here. It's our home. We came from there and there we go back. It's the gateway to the beyond, to the transcendental. So if we want to go beyond this universe, we should go through the sun. There is no way out. If we go out somewhere looking for the way out, we will never find it. It's an infinite space. But if you want to go to the transcendental, you have to enter the sun. This is the gate. Quite amazing, yeah? Beyond the sun, there is the transcendental Satchitananda. I'm speaking now mythology, of course, religion, but there is something about it which kind of triggers in us some understanding. Yes, Martha, you want to say something? Yeah?
I was just thinking that related to symbol, I mean, all these are, all that you're describing are symbols of the higher reality, the deeper reality.
Symbols, and because they are symbols of those other higher realities, they are partially higher realities also here in the divided world of time and space.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah, it's the surface of that higher reality here, representative, as a symbol is a representative of it. We are all symbols of some higher realities, doing something strange here, interacting in a very strange manner, collecting soma, and and giving this soma to the typal beings, devatas, to grow in consciousness. And ourselves grow by that. So we are transforming ourselves and the cosmos at the same time. It's a very clever arrangement, actually. Nothing is wasted here. Great. Okay, so let's then close with mantra here. And we will continue next from number 12, or 22, sorry. Among all the Vedas, I am Sama Veda. We will look into it next time. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Some of you wanted to join Sanskrit class. I don't have any class starting now, but in case we start something, we may organize some study group, as we did with the Gita, and maybe go through that. We had quite a few things with Sanskrit, introduction to Sanskrit language, foundations, fundamentals of Sanskrit from the point of view of Sri Aurobindo, and etymology already. The course is still going on. We went into the second half, but it's not studying Sanskrit. Yeah, if somebody of you wants to really study grammar, this is altogether a bit different thing. it's a lot of work, homework every day, reading, writing, remembering. There are few of our members doing it. That is the Teresa and Ruthie, and they are quite well actually. They went far. They already read and write and make exercises, compose their sentences, so learn mantras. I'm just saying.
Do you have videos of that series that you can share?
Yes, I have. Yes, I can share.
That'd be
Yes,
wonderful. Yeah.
yes. Great. Okay.
Especially if you tell us which ones are more based on the philosophy and understanding of how it relates to the mind in our evolution.
Right. The whole series are actually about that, fundamentals of Sanskrit from the point of view of how it is being organized as a tool for the divine manifestation of consciousness. Yes. So it's from that perspective.
It interested me when you described the course that you were contemplating starting with 10 lessons on the fundamentals before you got into the details of grammar.
Right. Many of you already did this. Siegfried did. I do not know what Siegfried. Do you have any impression from that course, or everything is gone somewhere? You went through the number part 1 and even part 2 you're doing, which is much more different.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the how deep and profound can be this perspective to learn Sanskrit. I'm not the proper person as a good student for language, but I love the meaning and the links between the knowledge and the wisdom based in the world, in the origin of the world.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm enjoying a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, I will send you the link so you see for yourself how you can use that material. Great. Okay, so all the best and see you then next time. Yeah, it's already.
Thank you.